Imagine, if you will, a completely normal Monday morning.
Right, just your average start to the week.
Exactly. You've got your coffee in hand, you're looking out your kitchen window, maybe dreading the commute or, a morning meeting you're totally unprepared for.
We've all been there.
The sun is shining, the birds are doing their thing. Then, without any warning whatsoever, the sky turns pitch, midnight black.
Like a total eclipse out of nowhere.
Not just a heavy storm cloud rolling in, but a deep, bruised purple that immediately shifts to a total, unnatural, suffocating darkness.
And it gets weirder.
It does. As you're standing there trying to process this sudden eclipse, it starts to rain. But it isn't water hitting your window pane with a soft patter.
No, definitely not water.
It's a heavy, wet, fleshy thudding. You lean in, you're squinting through the glass, and you realize it's raining live frogs.
Just absolute chaos.
Hundreds, thousands of them dropping from the heavens, bouncing off the hood of your car, splattering against the pavement.
And the sound must be horrific.
Oh, totally. And right at that exact moment, every single church bell in your city, the massive cathedral downtown, the local chapels, the little community centers, every single one of them begins to ring simultaneously.
They're on their own.
Completely on their own. It's a deafening, chaotic chorus that sounds less like a call to prayer and more like an alarm for the end of the world.
It really paints a terrifying picture.
Welcome to today's deep dive. I'm so thrilled you're joining us because the stack of materials we've been poring over is truly baffling.
It is a massive stack, too.
It is. Our mission here is always the same. We take a mountain of wild, seemingly impossible information, in this case, incident reports, historical diaries, first-hand observational notes about a highly secretive, elite institution known as Bloor's Academy, and we extract the core truths. We're here to help you make sense of the madness.
Madness is honestly the only word that does this justice.
Right.
We're looking at a documented, multi-generational power struggle. And it centers around the descendants of a 12th century African magician king, a figure known in these accounts as the Red King.
The Red King. It sounds like a myth.
It does, but the threads we're going to untangle today sound like a fever dream, yet they're meticulously detailed. We've got an invisible boy who has been hidden away in a school attic.
Which is just chilling.
We have a centenarian shapeshifter who's infiltrated the student body disguised as a beautiful young girl.
Creepy.
And perhaps most alarming of all, we have an ancient medieval sorcerer who has been accidentally unleashed upon a modern unsuspecting city.
Which directly leads to that frog raining scenario we just described.
Exactly.
Hold on, though. Raining frogs and an invisible boy. How do these two things even connect?
It seems entirely disjointed at first glance.
Yeah, what are we actually looking at here? Because I want to frame this for you, the listener, as more than just a recounting of some strange magical events.
There's a much deeper layer.
If you look closely at what is happening in this academy, this is an absolute masterclass in understanding hidden power dynamics.
Institutional cover-up.
Yes. Toxic legacy systems, and the chaotic, often violent clash between ancient entrenched traditions and the modern world. It's about what happens when adults in power use children as pawns.
And how those children manage to fight back.
Using grassroots resistance. Okay, let's unpack this starting from the very beginning. To understand the bizarre events at Bloor's Academy, what is the actual genetic legacy that caused all of this?
That genetic legacy is the foundational anchor of everything that happens in these accounts. Everything traces back to the 12th century.
So we're going way back.
Way back. The Red King, who was an immensely powerful magician, left Africa. He traveled with 3 leopards and a profoundly dangerous artifact called the Time Twister.
The Time Twister, that sounds like a roller coaster.
It's far more volatile than that. It was a glass sphere into which he placed his memories, and it allowed him to physically twist through time, visiting both the past and the future.
Wait, a glass sphere with memories? How does that even work? Are we talking about like time travel through nostalgia?
It's a bit more visceral than that. The accounts suggest the memories act as a sort of temporal tether.
A tether.
Yeah. You look into the sphere, you focus on a specific memory or an era tied to the king's bloodline, and it physically transports you. It's an incredibly volatile magic.
I can imagine.
But the more pressing issue for our deep dive is what happened after the 12th century. Fast forward to the modern day.
To Bloor's Academy.
Right. The Red King's descendants, who refer to themselves as the Endowed, are currently gathered at this academy. What's fascinating here is how these genetic traits act almost entirely as a psychological burden rather than a superhero fantasy.
Oh, that's a great point.
The powers aren't uniform, and they've mutated over centuries. We can essentially categorize these endowments into 4 distinct groups to make them easier to digest.
Let's run through those because there are a lot of kids involved here, and their abilities are wildly different.
The first group is psychic or sensory powers.
Right, so you have Charlie Bone, our main lens into this world, who can actually hear the voices of people inside photographs and paintings.
Which is a very specific, strange power.
If he looks at a picture of you, he can hear what you were thinking or saying the exact moment the camera flashed.
Then there's Gabriel Silk, who is psychometric.
Psychometric, explain that one.
Gabriel can feel the emotions, the history, and the truth of a person just by touching their clothes.
I can't even imagine that. What does that actually feel like on a day-to-day basis?
Well, imagine putting on a thrift store jacket,
Okay.
and instead of just smelling mothballs, you are suddenly hit with a tidal wave of the exact gut-wrenching heartbreak the previous owner felt when they wore it in the rain 10 years ago.
Wow, that's horrible.
It is overwhelming sensory overload. The accounts say he has to wear incredibly thick, oversized sweaters just to insulate himself from the emotional residue left on everyday objects.
That sounds completely exhausting. And then, completely opposite to that, you have the elemental and physical powers.
The heavy hitters.
Yeah, you've got Tancred Torson, who is a literal stormbringer. He commands the weather. And Emma Tolley, who can physically transform into a bird and fly.
Then there is the animal or ancestral category.
Gilly Raven is in that one, right?
Yes, Billy Raven is a young albino boy who can communicate fluently with animals.
And Lysander Sage.
Lysander has the ability to summon the spirits of his ancient ancestors to aid him. And Asa Pike is a werbeast.
A werbeast. Like a werewolf.
Similar, he involuntarily shifts into a monstrous animalistic form at dusk.
And finally, you have the control and manipulation powers.
The most sinister category?
These seem strictly concentrated within the Bloor family and their closest allies. Manfred Bloor is a highly skilled, malicious hypnotist. Zelda Dubinsky is telekinetic. She can move objects with her mind.
So you look at this list, and on paper it sounds like a comic book.
Right, like a fun superhero academy.
But reading through these accounts, the day-to-day reality of these kids is incredibly bleak.
Let's talk about the physical realities of these powers that make them such a threat or such a burden, because it's not fun in games.
Not at all. Let's look at the adults in this universe for a prime example of how these powers ruin lives over time. Charlie's great-uncle, Peyton Ubeam, has an endowment.
He's the power booster.
Exactly. But the reality of his power is that whenever he looks at a light bulb or any modern light source, it explodes. He cannot control it.
So he just blows out the power grid of whatever room he walks into.
Precisely. Because of this, he is forced into a strictly nocturnal, incredibly isolated existence.
He has to wear dark glasses constantly, right?
Yes. He only leaves the house after midnight, and he is entirely cut off from normal society. He spends his life reading by candlelight. His power has stolen his ability to interact with the modern world.
That is so tragic. Or consider little Billy Raven. He's an orphan, and his ability to talk to animals gets him utterly ostracized.
It's a curse for him.
He realized he could speak to animals when his aunt's dog and cat literally told him it was his birthday. When he innocently told his aunt what happened, he was banished to Bloor's academy.
His power makes him a freak to the outside world.
And because he's so desperate for parents and affection, he becomes incredibly vulnerable to manipulation by the oppressive Bloor family.
It really is. It's just sad.
And you brought up Tancred Torson, the weather boy. His emotions directly influence the weather.
Oh.
So if he gets angry or frustrated, which, let's be real, as a teenager, is constantly plates go flying across the dining hall.
Freezing winds blow indoors.
A localized storm erupts. He literally cannot hide his feelings. There is zero privacy for him.
If he has a crush on someone or if he's embarrassed, the barometer drops and that thunderstorm kicks up in the hallway.
You really start to see that Bloor's Academy acts less like an educational facility and more like a containment and observation zone.
That containment strategy is key.
It's managed by the Bloor family, who possess those hypnotic, controlling powers, and they seem laser-focused on keeping all the other endowed children suppressed and monitored.
The Bloors are terrified of this unpredictable genetic lottery. They run the academy with an iron fist because they are trying to manage a biological volatility that they don't fully understand.
They enforce a strict hierarchy.
Yes, separating the kids into different colored capes and different disciplines.
Yeah.
Music, art, drama.
It's like modern corporate siloing, isn't it? You keep departments entirely separate, you put them in different colored lanyards, and you make sure they never cross-pollinate ideas.
It is a classic tactic to keep people from unionizing or realizing their shared strength.
The Bloors are doing exactly that to children. They even force the endowed kids to do their homework together in a special room monitored by Manfred Bloor.
Under a massive, intimidating portrait of the Red King.
It's a panopticon. They are always being watched.
The irony, of course, is that while the Bloors are obsessively focused on controlling the children's powers aren't the actual problem.
They are.
No, the most dangerous elements inside Bloor's academy are the ancient, unregulated artifacts stored in the building and the adult administrators who are pulling the strings.
Which brings us to a part of these accounts that genuinely made my skin crawl, the cover-up of Ollie Sparks.
A truly horrifying case.
We are talking about the darkest, most horrifying secret hidden in the school's attic. What exactly happens to Ollie? Because the official story is that he just vanished.
The case of Ollie Sparks is deeply unsettling. It's a perfect example of institutional rot. The official narrative, which was disseminated by the school matron, Miss Ubeam, was that Ollie simply ran away.
Right, because he was known for being a curious and somewhat meddlesome student.
Exactly. She claimed she escorted him to a train station, he went to buy a juice from a kiosk, and he never came back.
So the school just washed its hands of him.
They filed some paperwork, sent a letter of regret, and the parents were left to grieve a missing child.
But Ollie never made it to a train station. Charlie Bone and Emma Tolley eventually sneak into the restricted attic of Bloor's Academy, and they find out Ollie has been there the entire time.
Except he is invisible.
He has been rendered completely invisible, save for one single disembodied pink big toe, and the cause of this invisibility, a magical silvery blue boa constrictor.
Which sounds absurd.
Wait, an invisibility snake? How does a snake make you invisible?
To understand the mechanics of the boa, we have to delve into its history. This snake was originally given to the Red King centuries ago as a guardian and a wise counselor.
So it wasn't always a monster.
No, it was a gentle, magical creature. However, the king's sadistic eldest son, Borlath, captured the boa and tortured it until it became a pure killing machine.
Oh, that's awful.
Its squeeze would crush victims into oblivion. Later, the king's daughter, Guanamara, tried to cure the snake with a spell.
Did it work?
The spell was only partially successful. It stopped the boa from killing, but the trauma and the magic mutated its primary defense mechanism. Instead of squeezing its victims to death, its hug now induced total, permanent invisibility.
That is such a strange mutation.
The snake eventually went into a deep, embalmed sleep until it was recently revived by Ezekiel Bloor.
The 100-year-old patriarch of the academy. Here's where it gets really interesting. And by interesting, I mean absolutely terrifying. Let's talk about Ezekiel Bloor's motivation for reviving an ancient biological weapon in a school full of children.
His motivation is purely selfish.
Ezekiel is 100 years old. He's confined to a wheelchair. His body is failing him. He wants the power of invisibility for himself.
Presumably so he can move freely, extend his influence, and avoid the creaking reality of his own death.
But he's terrified of the permanence. He doesn't know how to reverse the snake's magic. So what does he do? He uses a 12-year-old boy.
Ollie Sparks saw the snake by accident.
And instead of protecting him, the Bloors just watched. They let the snake squeeze him to test the effects. And now they are keeping Ollie alive in this freezing, dusty attic, feeding him jars of jam, while Ezekiel casually tries to figure out a reversal process.
The psychological torture Ollie endures is profound. The accounts describe his daily existence in agonizing detail. He is utterly isolated.
I can't even fathom the loneliness.
He mentions that when he tried to escape into the main school corridors, people unwittingly walked right into him, knocking him down and bruising him.
Because they literally couldn't see him.
Spiders weave webs on his face while he sleeps, because they can't see him as a solid object. He can't even see himself eat. The food just vanishes inside him.
And the toe, the only reason a single toe is visible is because the snake somehow missed it during the squeeze.
A tiny flaw in the magic.
So when Charlie and Emma go up there, they literally find a disembodied pink toe lying on the floorboards, hovering in midair, because Ollie's shoe grew too small and his sock wore out.
It is a profound, horrifying loss of identity. He has been entirely erased from the world.
It forces us to examine the concept of institutional accountability. The Bloors run this academy with such absolute, unquestioned authority that they can erase a student from existence.
They use an ancient biological weapon on a child.
They lie to his parents, cover it up with a fabricated story about a train station, and no external authority steps in. There are no police investigations that penetrate the school walls.
No truancy officers, no educational board reviews.
It's a chilling reminder of what happens when a legacy institution operates entirely above the law, using tradition, wealth, and extreme secrecy as a shield against the outside world.
But the cover-up starts to crack.
Right. Ollie's older brother Samuel is actually infiltrating the school disguised as an art teacher to find out what happened. Surely an institution this paranoid notices a leak, right? They have cameras, they have prefects.
They notice.
How do the Bloors strike back when they realize a resistance is forming to rescue this invisible kid?
They recognize the threat immediately. The Bloors know that if the other endowed children figure out what happened to Ollie, there will be a revolt.
So they call for outside help to crush the dissent.
They bring in a ringer. And this introduces us to Yolanda, who presents herself to the school as a new student named Belle.
Yolanda is nightmare fuel. She is a centenarian shapeshifter. She comes from U-Beam Castle, which is this dark, electricity-free, crumbling stronghold located far to the northeast,
Where the descendants of the Red King have lived in isolation for centuries.
Yolanda is over 100 years old, but her father was a shapeshifter and her mother was a hypnotist, giving her a dual endowment.
Extremely rare and powerful.
She arrives at Bloor's Academy disguised as a beautiful, innocent-looking, golden-haired child. Her mission is to keep the endowed children in check, flush out any spies, and assist old Ezekiel Bloor in his dark research.
She is the ultimate enforcer.
Wait, pause. 100 years old. Is she immortal, or does shape-shifting just pause her aging process?
The mechanics of shapeshifting in this universe seem to pause cellular degradation, but at a massive psychological cost.
Imagine being 12 years old, going to your classes, complaining about homework, and sitting next to you is a 100-year-old predator wearing the skin of a child.
It is deeply unsettling. The physical strain is apparent too. Her eyes constantly change color.
From blue to green to gray to violet.
Yes, because she is literally struggling to hold the physical form of the child together. It requires constant active concentration.
She doesn't just use physical force either. She uses incredibly intense psychological warfare.
She embeds herself among the kids.
She isolates vulnerable targets. There's a girl named Dorcas Loom, and Yolanda basically separates her from her friends, manipulates her insecurities, and turns her into a loyal, brainwashed follower.
She is building her own tiny authoritarian regime inside the student body.
Her defining moment of ruthlessness occurs when she confronts Mr. Boldova. As you mentioned, Mr. Boldova is actually Samuel Sparks, Ollie's older brother, in disguise.
Samuel is an endowed adult. He's a sparkler, meaning he has the power to make stones ignite and turn into brilliant, scorching fire.
He figures out who Belle really is and tries to stand up to her in the main hall of the school.
And it does not go well for him.
Not at all.
In response to Samuel's threat, Yolanda drops her disguise. The accounts describe her shifting from a sweet blonde girl into an ancient yellow-skinned hag with hanging folds of skin and a crag of a nose.
It's a grotesque transformation.
Samuel throws burning stones at her, but Yolanda utilizes her dual endowment. She stares at him, using a hypnotic power so ancient and overwhelming that she completely neutralizes him on the spot.
Neutralizes putting it mildly. She erases his entire mind. It's like a factory reset of a human being.
Samuel just stops.
He drops the burning stones. He forgets who he is. He forgets why he's a teacher at the school. And tragically, he forgets his missing invisible brother.
His rat, Rembrandt, who is a highly perceptive animal, actually says to Billy Raven that the master's light has gone out.
His soul, his core identity, has been extinguished by Yolanda's gaze. He just wanders out of the front doors of the school and gets into a car driven by Charlie's evil great aunts.
They completely eliminate the only adult who is actively trying to help the children.
We must consider the sheer biological and psychological toll of shape-shifting as described here. The sources mention a chilling phrase: a shapeshifter is never thoroughly dead.
What happens to a human consciousness when it spans more than a century and occupies multiple physical forms?
It appears that Yolanda has lost all traces of modern humanity.
She lacks any empathy. She acts as a pure, calculating predator. She is a survival mechanism incarnate, totally devoid of moral constraints.
She is just malicious for the sake of it. There's a scene in Darkly Wind, which is the gloomy, dead-end alley where the U-beam ants live. Charlie looks through a window and sees Yolanda back in her child form directing his Aunt Venetia.
Venetia sticks a hat pin into a piece of red velvet.
And Yolanda uses her magic to turn the velvet into a writhing mass of live, shiny black beetles. Why? Just to be cruel, just to exercise power.
And even more heartbreaking than the Beatles is what she does to Lysander Sage's project.
Yes, that is a pivotal moment of sabotage. Lysander, who summons his spirit ancestors, had spent weeks secretly carving a wooden likeness of the invisible Ollie Sparks.
His theory, which demonstrates a highly sophisticated understanding of his own magic, was that if his ancestors could see a perfect physical representation of the boy, they could channel their spiritual energy to grant it substance, effectively making the real Ollie visible again.
It was a brilliant, empathetic plan born out of pure solidarity.
But Yolanda finds it, because of course she does.
And because she cannot allow the children to have any victories, however small, she burns the wooden carving to ashes in the middle of the night.
When Charlie and his friends find the remains of the fire the next morning, the only thing left in the embers are two painted blue eyes staring up at them.
It's devastating. They've lost Mr. Buldova. They've lost the carving that was their only hope for Ollie, and Charlie's own great-uncle Peyton, who actually traveled to Ubeam Castle to try and stop Yolanda from coming to the school in the first place, has returned mysteriously incapacitated.
Peyton's hair has turned completely ash gray, he's barely conscious, and his powers are completely drained.
The neutralization of all the sympathetic adults leaves Charlie Bone completely desperate. He's cornered.
The administration is closing in, Yolanda is watching their every move, and his friends are losing hope.
And it's precisely this desperation, this feeling of being entirely trapped by a broken system, that leads to the most catastrophic event in all of these accounts.
When systems fail completely, individuals take extreme, unregulated risks.
Charlie decides he needs magical help, and he decides to get it from a painting.
Which is incredibly dangerous.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because Charlie's power isn't just listening to whispers from a canvas. If he pushes hard enough, if he really concentrates, he can physically project himself into the artwork.
He can step into the two-dimensional space.
And he happens to have a painting of an ancient medieval sorcerer named Scarpo. Now, Scarpo is bad news. The guy loves destruction, he's arrogant, and he's dangerous.
But Charlie knows Scarpo has a magical healing wand in the painting.
And Charlie desperately wants it to heal his Uncle Peyton. So Charlie goes in, manages to steal the wand, and gets out. It's a success.
But here is the catastrophic mistake.
In a later, botched attempt to interact with the painting, Charlie accidentally drags Scarpo and a 400-year-old mouse that lived in Scarpo's pocket completely out of the two-dimensional artwork and into the real Maudit world.
And this initiates what the accounts refer to as Mayhem Monday. Scarpo escapes Charlie's house and runs out into the city streets. If we connect this to the bigger picture, what we are witnessing is a phenomenon of massive chronological sensory overload.
I mean, my grandfather gets confused by an iPhone. I cannot even imagine taking a 13th century wizard who is used to dirt roads and candlelight and dropping him into modern-day traffic.
The asphalt, the blinding electric streetlights, the synthetic fabrics, the roaring cars.
No wonder the guy lost his mind.
Exactly. Scarpo's mind shatters upon contact with the modern era. Out of pure confusion and terror, his magic goes completely haywire.
It's an unregulated, explosive discharge of ancient power in a dense, modern urban setting.
He isn't casting spells purposefully. He is leaking magic out of sheer panic.
The magical anomalies that occur across the city are absolutely bonkers. It reads like a surrealist nightmare.
The music teacher at the school, Mr. Pilgrim, reports that while he was playing the piano, the notes on a sheet of Beethoven's Sonata Note 27 literally turned into solid gold and fell off the page.
The spiders and bats living in the school's music tower, petrified into solid gold.
But it gets worse and much more public.
Down at the local butcher shop, two hanging sides of beef suddenly reanimate, fuse back together, and transform into a live, rampaging bull that charges through the shop window and out into the street.
And then, the climax of this sensory overload.
Yeah.
The moment we talked about at the very beginning of this deep dive.
The skies over the city turn pitch black. A torrential downpour of live frogs falls from the heavens, every single church bell rings by itself, and a full-grown live elephant appears out of thin air in the Academy Garden, trampling the flower beds.
This specific sequence of events, while chaotic, actually allows us to speculate on the strict scientific or magical mechanics of dimensional travel within this universe.
A logical question is, Why can't Charlie just grab Scarpo and push him back into the canvas?
The accounts reveal a rigid physical law of this magic. The essence of the moment has been broken because Charlie lost the mouse.
Scarpo's 400-year-old mouse scuttled under the floorboards of Charlie's house the second they landed in the real world.
Scarpo explicitly states he cannot return without it.
So it's an atomic-level continuity rule.
Precisely. It implies that magical portals, or dimensional barriers, require strict atomic-level continuity to function. You cannot enter or exit a pocket dimension or a time stream unless the mass and the specific entities of the original timeline are perfectly aligned.
You can't leave a piece of the past in the present and expect the door to open again.
It's a fascinating, hard limitation on what otherwise seems like limitless, whimsical magic.
But Dr. Bloor doesn't care about atomic continuity. The real-world consequences for Charlie are immediate and terrifying. Bloor is absolutely furious.
Because for the first time, the Academy's weirdness, the magical volatility they try so hard to keep hidden, has spilled over into the public sector.
There are traffic accidents from the frog rain, the mayor is panicking on the phone, the illusion of normalcy is shattered.
Bloor hauls all the endowed kids into his shadowy book-lined study for a brutal interrogation.
He singles out Charlie immediately. Bloor doesn't care about how the magic works. He cares about optics, PR, and control.
He gives Charlie an ultimatum. Fix the mess, capture the rogue sorcerer, and stop the mayhem by 9:00 p.m. the next day, or face the ultimate threat.
Permanent exile. Dr. Bloor essentially threatens to do to Charlie exactly what he did to Charlie's father years ago, erase him from society, permanently.
It is a textbook authoritarian response. Blame the whistleblower, or in this case the accidental catalyst, and demand they fix a systemic failure under threat of severe punishment without providing any resources to help them do it.
Hunted by the school administration, watched constantly by the shapeshifter Yolanda, and desperate to fix his monumental mistake before the deadline, Charlie is cut off from all traditional avenues of help.
The teachers are either compromised or terrified.
His uncle is incapacitated, and his own grandmother is actively conspiring against him with the Bloors. He has to rely on the only network left to him.
And what a network it is.
This is where we get to the hidden layers of Bloor's Academy and the city itself. If the adults are useless, who do you turn to? You turn to the Shadow Network. You turn to the espionage ring run entirely by pets and the marginalized working class.
The theme of surveillance in these accounts is incredibly layered and fascinating to dissect. On one side, you have the top-down surveillance of Dr. Bloor, Manfred, and Ezekiel.
They rely on fear, intimidation, and hypnosis to gather intelligence.
They attempt to use Billy Raven, the tragic albino boy desperate for adoption, as a spy. They literally promise him parents. They tell him an older couple will adopt him in exchange for information on Charlie and his friends' movements.
It's a cruel, transactional manipulation of a child's deepest vulnerability. It's disgusting.
But Billy eventually realizes he's being played. He sees the casual cruelty of the Bloors.
And because his actual power is communicating with animals, he taps into a vastly superior intelligence network.
The adults in this world completely ignore the animals. They treat them as pests or, at best, playthings. But the animals see everything.
Take Blessed, for example. Blessed is the school cook's fat, old, seemingly lazy dog. The administration ignores him. But Blessed was the one who actually found the blue boa in the attic in the first place, and he lost his tail to it.
He knows the layout of all the forbidden zones in the school.
And then there's Rembrandt, the black rat who belonged to Mr. Boldova. Rembrandt is incredibly perceptive. He hides in the shadows and witnesses Yolanda's shapeshifting.
He witnesses Samuel's mind wipe.
And he reports it all back to Billy.
This is a classic asymmetrical information war. The administration have the institutional power, the cameras, the prefects, the wealth. But the children rely on empathy.
They communicate with the marginalized, the animals, the kitchen staff, the people who clean up the messes who are entirely invisible to the arrogant adults.
The animals operate beneath the notice of the powerful, making them the perfect informants. We see this manifested physically in the sanctuaries the children utilize to plan their resistance.
I love these sanctuaries. You have the Pets Cafe out in the city, run by the Onimus family. Mr. Onimus is this small, frantic, furry-looking man who works in pest control, but his cafe is a safe haven for the resistance.
It's chaotic. It smells like wet fur. It's loud. There are gerbils and dogs and cats everywhere, but it is safe. It is warm.
And then, right under Dr. Bloor's nose, down in the damp basements of the Academy, you have Cook. Cook operates a secret, cozy underground apartment hidden entirely behind a broom closet.
The Bloors have no idea it even exists.
Cook is a fascinating figure in these accounts. The details strongly imply she might be endowed herself, though she hides it completely to maintain her cover.
She uses her position as a humble servant to monitor the children, feed them extra rations, and protect them when she can.
And it's here, in Cook's hidden apartment, that the irony of the entire Scarpo situation comes to a head.
This is honestly the best part of the entire debacle.
Scarpo, this terrifying medieval sorcerer who caused a citywide blackout, who turned bats to gold and summoned a hurricane of frogs, is not found plotting world domination in a villainous lair.
Where does Charlie finally find him?
He's found cowering and weeping in Cook's broom closet. He is completely broken by the modern world. He's begging Cook, battling in ancient jargon, asking her to send him home to his painting.
He is just as trapped, just as frightened, and just as isolated as Ollie Sparks is up in the attic.
It highlights the sheer vulnerability of these magical beings when removed from their proper context. Power is entirely relative to the environment.
It also raises a fascinating point about animal instincts. Why do the animals seem to have a better grasp of the magical threats than the human characters?
When Billy takes Rembrandt the rat to Charlie's house to hide him, the rat immediately panics.
Rembrandt tells Billy that he smells bad magic and things that should be dead.
He's reacting to the 400-year-old mouse that escaped from the painting and is hiding under the floorboards.
This implies that in this universe, animal instincts are highly attuned to temporal and magical anomalies. They sense the disruption in the natural chronological order long before the human characters even notice something is wrong.
Which leads to this incredibly tense, frantic sequence where Charlie has to save Rembrandt. Charlie's grandma Bone and old Ezekiel Bloor discover the rat in the house.
Ezekiel, who is terrified of anything he cannot control or understand, immediately orders his thuggish handyman, Whedon, to kill the rat.
Charlie literally snatches the cardboard box containing Rembrandt and sprints out the back door. He's running through the city streets, dodging traffic, running for his life, until he delivers the rat to the warm, chaotic safety of the Pets Cafe.
And Mrs. Onimus doesn't ask questions. She just immediately embraces this terrified black rat, offering it cake and tea.
It's such a stark, beautiful contrast to the cold, sterile cruelty of the Bloor family. It shows that empathy and community are the only real defenses against this kind of institutional malice.
That contrast is essential to understanding the core conflict. The Bloors represent a legacy system that seeks to control, categorize, and exploit.
They want to put people in boxes.
The children, aided by the animals and working-class figures like Cook and the Onimus family, represent a decentralized, empathetic network.
They share information freely, they protect the vulnerable regardless of their status, and they operate outside the rigid hierarchies imposed upon them.
It is a remarkable depiction of how marginalized groups build resilience.
Okay, let's take a breath and look back at the incredible density of the events we've covered today.
We have covered a lot of ground.
We've unpacked a genetic war tracing all the way back to a 12th century king with a time-traveling glass sphere. We've seen how this ancient bloodline has resulted in a modern-day academy that hides an invisible boy in the attic, employs a 100-year-old shape-shifting saboteur to wipe people's minds, and accidentally unleashes a displaced medieval sorcerer who wreaks absolute havoc raiding frogs and creating golden bats on a modern city.
It is a massive, sprawling, chaotic narrative.
It is indeed. And while the specifics, the magic wands, the blue boas, the weather-controlling teenagers are highly fantastical, the underlying themes are remarkably grounded.
The dynamics of power, isolation, and control play out exactly as they do in our non-magical world.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? Why should you care about Charlie Bone, a magical boa constrictor, and a crying sorcerer in a broom closet? Well, connect this to your own world.
You might not deal with raining frogs on your morning commute or a coworker who shifts into a giant wolf at dusk.
But you absolutely deal with entrenched legacy systems. You deal with toxic institutional cover-ups. You see what happens when outdated mindsets and draconian traditions are forced upon modern environments every single day.
The struggles of these endowed children are just amplified magical versions of real-world systemic dysfunctions.
And the strategy these kids use, building a grassroots resistance via empathy, communication, and listening to the voices that the powerful ignore, like the animals or the kitchen staff, that is a viable, necessary strategy for navigating any broken system you might find yourself in.
Precisely. It serves as an allegory for institutional survival. It warns against the siloing of information and the dangers of unregulated authority, while championing the power of observation, cross-departmental communication, and alliance building across societal divides.
As we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a brand new, lingering question to mull over based on the material we've analyzed today. We know the Red King possessed a time twister sphere.
This glass object allowed him to travel to both the past and the future.
If he could truly see the future, if he looked into that glass and saw the year 2026, did he foresee his descendants fracturing into these two warring factions?
Did you watch the Bloors become paranoid tyrants and the U-beams become cruel, isolated husks?
And if so, is it possible that Charlie Bone's specific, highly unusual ability to step into paintings isn't just a random genetic quirk? What if Charlie's power is a deliberate backdoor,
A genetic key planted by the Red King himself.
designed to eventually allow Charlie to traverse time, bypass the time twister entirely, confront his ancestors, and fix his broken family from the inside out?
A fascinating hypothesis. It suggests that the past is not done with the present, and that the ultimate solution to the systemic corruption at Bloor's Academy might require returning to the very origin of the power itself.
It certainly frames Charlie's endowment not just as a tool for chaotic accidents, but as a destined mechanism for historical correction.
It means every time he looks at a canvas, he might be looking at a door the Red King left open just for him.
Something to think about the next time you look at an old family portrait. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We hope we've helped illuminate the hidden, sometimes terrifying corners of Bloor's Academy for you. Keep questioning the narratives you're handed, and keep looking beneath the surface of your own sources. Until next time.